This video will demonstrate how to override a function. You can override a destructor, and you can override a class member function per instance. When you override, the function doing the overriding will acquire copies of the attributes and associations of the function that it overrides. Once it has acquired copies, some of those copies are changeable and some are not. You can change the access of the overrider. You can change the overridability of the overrider. In other words, it can change from virtual to pure virtual or from pure virtual to virtual. And you can change the return type of a class member function per instance as long as the new type is covariant with the old type. Most of the attributes and operations are not changeable in the overrider. You cannot change which function that you override. You cannot change any of the formal parameters. You cannot change whether they end in ... You cannot change the function name. You cannot change whether U is const or whether U is volatile, and you cannot change the reference qualifier. Let's start with an example. Here I have an abstract base class with a virtual destructor and a pure virtual class member function per instance. Let's demonstrate how to add a derived class to this and then how to add overrides of these two functions. Let's scroll down to my derived classes. Let's make a new derived class. Let's give it the name derived. Press the return or enter key to make it take effect. Notice the FYI says this class claims to be concrete, not abstract, but it cannot be concrete because it inherits or contains a pure virtual. Well, it certainly inherits a pure virtual from the base. Scroll down to the members and say that you want a new override. You can give the name of the one you want to override, or if you press the escape key, it will say the base class has two overridable functions. One is a destructor, one is a class member function per instance. Let's select the destructor and say OK. Observe, the derived class now has a virtual destructor which says I know the function that I override. I override the base destructor, and you can navigate there if you wish. Let's navigate to my surrounding class, the derived class, which still says I have to fulfill all pure virtuals if I'm going to be abstract, concrete. So let's go ahead and add another override. Press the escape key and say, yes, that's the one I want to override. Here it is. It is still pure virtual. To make it regular virtual, go to the overridability and change it from required to permitted. That makes it virtual but not pure virtual. So if you navigate to your surrounding class, it is now concrete and there is no longer an FYI saying that it's not concrete. So observe that the derived class overrides are virtual. They say they are overrides. They've copied almost everything from their base class function that they override. And notice that some of the things that are grayed out, like for example, you cannot modify, this is the class definition. Let's go to the class member function per instance. You cannot modify that it is const. It's grayed out. You cannot modify that it is virtual. You cannot modify its reference qualifier. You cannot modify its formal parameters. You cannot modify its function name. You cannot modify which function that you override. You cannot modify your return. Well, you can modify your return type. It doesn't currently check to make sure that it is covariant, but it is modifiable. That concludes this video. Thanks for watching.